All right, what's going on, guys? A ton to cover today. Welcome to Sunday. Welcome to the weekend prep. First Coinist Daily of the weekend. There has been one question I got, and I've kind of gone back and forth on how I want to do this. Every single Monday through Friday, right? Every single weekday, there will always be a video, always be kind of my updates, always be trade ideas for what I'm covering. On the weekend, I do think that most weekends it'll always be Saturday, Sunday, but sometimes whether I take a Saturday off or I take a Sunday off or if I have to take a weekend off because I'm away from the charts, that might happen, right? So think of the weekend as kind of a bonus, but Monday through Friday there will always be a Coinist Daily, and just given how much I'm here anyways and want to cover things, especially if things are moving like they are today with Bitcoin and ETH. Today's going to be a pretty exciting day, or at least I think the beginning of the week will be pretty exciting. I will definitely cover it. Right, so first Coinist Daily of the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes they might happen, sometimes they might not. So it'll kind of be like a bonus, but more often than not, I will definitely put something out. Anyways, hopefully you guys are having a good weekend. A lot to jump into today. First thing I'm going to cover, which is the chart right behind my head on the screen here, is going to be Bitcoin, which has been for a while now kind of consolidating nearly all weekend, right? A bit of a change of pace based on what we've been used to since mid-June or even kind of mid-May, with really volatile swings, massive $1,000 moves over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and now up until today, we've had Bitcoin trading in a tighter and tighter range. We might be getting that breakout right now. Really nice volume on the 1 hour. I'm going to break down kind of what I'm thinking here, why I've wanted to be pretty hands-off up until this point, and now what this breakout could mean. Also going to look at ETH. I see a lot of people on Twitter starting to share this chart, and for good reason. Just like Bitcoin, it's breaking past a level that I've had marked as kind of that key resistance for a while, which is the 290 to 305 area. Right, ETH breaking up here is pretty exciting as well. Obviously, that could be Bitcoin driven or it could be ETH driven. The reason that the beginning of this week I think is especially exciting is because up until today, and really the way that I've been approaching the market now for 2 months almost, is that alts have been taking a back seat when Bitcoin moves higher, right? But initially now on the first hour of this Bitcoin breakout, right, and it's not a very violent move just yet. It's only a 2 or 3% move, $300 move. But Ethereum versus Bitcoin, EOS versus Bitcoin, a lot of these charts are actually breaking up with Bitcoin. Now, you don't want to see them just break up and kind of get stuck now, which is what I think could happen. We'll see with ETH. Anyways, I'm going to break that down. If majors are able to move higher with dollar values also going up, obviously that would be a very, very exciting start to the week and lead to a different set of opportunities. For the past 2 or 3 weeks, all I've been focused on is wanting to be long Bitcoin versus USD or maybe ETH versus USD. And that's just because USD values have been going up and most Bitcoin values have also been getting crushed. But maybe that changes today. I'm not sold on it yet, but it's definitely something we're going to break down. All right, that's what I'm going to cover today. Let's get into it. Give you a quick little 10, 15-minute prep to get you ready for the week. Any trades that I see out there that are interesting. All right, so Bitcoin, you guys know the story. I'm going to jump into this pretty quick since the action is exciting. All right, you guys know the story. We've had the high in 2019 up around 13, 14K. We had our second high, which was a lower high, and now we've had our second kind of lower high put in. And going into the weekend, that was kind of my understanding was, okay, we got back down below 11.4. I probably don't want to be long Bitcoin anymore. There's a chance we drop much lower. I also don't want to be shorting because we're still 20% down from the top. And I don't know, everything was kind of consolidating for the first time in nearly 2 or 3 weeks. It's kind of a sign to me, okay, just be hands off, wait for kind of the next volume push to come in, wait for the next explosive push to come in. That will help determine trend for the coming, 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever it might be, right? So it was actually a really nice break kind of from trading. Things have been pretty hectic, so more so than even determining, which direction we go next, I think sometimes it's also very helpful to understand, look, I don't have a good read on direction. I'm going to wait for something to happen. And it looks like we're finally getting that push right now. Right? A level that I've taken off of the chart that I've had on for a long time is pretty much 11.2K, right? And up to about 11.4. Where did my 11.4 go? Right, this little pivot area, if I get the consolidation out of there, I'm going to put both these back, has been a really nice guide for when price is trading above this pivot. Usually that's a good indication that price is kind of ready to continue higher. And when we're back down below, if you think about 11.2, 11.4, right, last time we broke down from it, at the end of June, it led for that $2,000 decline. All right, so this pivot has kind of been, price has been using it as both a resistance and a support now. It's a level we've bounced back and forth, right? Resistance, resistance, this last time, support for a few days. Immediately when we drop back down below, right, once again, it becomes resistance. And now as we kind of break above it, obviously that's exciting again for the market. All right, so there's two different ways to look at it, right? You can continue to use kind of those horizontal levels, or you can use trend lines, consolidation, whatever it might be. Both are going to give you a pretty clear picture of what's happening and maybe just a different way to look at things. The way that I'm considering this, my triggers going into the weekend was, I would actually be excited for Bitcoin to continue higher if we can get above this most recent high. And the reason I picked that out, it's not just a random rule. Once we've put in not only our first lower high, but also our second lower high, in order to give me confidence that momentum has actually returned and that bulls aren't gone, and that buyers are actually still here to be buying the dip and to be pushing price higher, it would show significant strength if we actually are able to kind of take out this most recent, right? If this is our first lower high, this is our second lower high. If price can actually get above, above kind of right here would really start to hint that we're going to make it. So above like 11.7 would be maybe the earliest signal. But above 12K, I think would give me a ton of confidence that price is actually ready to continue higher. If it gets above 12, I imagine we could also take out this most recent lower high too. So for right now, I know this little breakup is pretty exciting for Bitcoin. On the 1 hour chart and small time frames, it does look pretty good, especially when we've been trading in such a tight range. It's going to have a lot of people excited. It has me excited as well. Right? On some smaller time frames, what I am going to be looking out for now for the rest of the day, if we did break out, right, if we can come back down and retest this area, it's been resistance once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Now, if this is the breakout, we come back down and retest it, and we can move up, right? That'd also be a pretty early signal that we can actually move higher. So whether or not you do want to play the smaller time frames, that's kind of what I would be looking for, right? If you're a pattern trader, if you're looking at this as a consolidation or as a triangle and this is a breakup, that's how I would view it. For me, I'm more kind of looking, if we have enough strength to actually get over this most recent high, it's probably a good sign. Above 11.7 is a real hint, but above 12K is what really triggers me to say, okay, this thing still has momentum, right? We're $500 higher. I imagine if we get above this 12K most recent high, this wouldn't be a lower high anymore, and we're probably ready to take out the high right before it, right? So that's still kind of the sign for me. I still want to move slow. Really viewing the past 48 hours as chop. I know that this slight move up is exciting, but I'm not just going to start blasting away orders because it's the first $200 move we've had all weekend, right? So that's exciting. I don't think it's anything to FOMO into, but conditions and setups that I would be looking for, like I said, if we come back down and retest in this 11.3 area, really as long as price now holds the 11.2, that's kind of one way to play the trade, right? Having your stops obviously below 11.2. Also lines up nicely with the pivot, or kind of the slower moving approach to make sure that price is actually ready to move higher and has a much higher probability of continuing to move higher once we get there. I like the 11.7 or kind of the 12K. Being able to take out this most recent top is pretty big for me structurally. All right, that's Bitcoin. How Bitcoin's affecting the rest of the market, ever since, you guys know it, I've repeated it a million times, ever since April, obviously alts have just been getting demolished. Ever since the 2019, parabolic run started. I know it's not a parabolic run to new all-time highs, but this run was parabolic, and how fast we were moving. Even when Bitcoin was only making kind of these 5-10% swings, alts have still been getting crushed. The one time that alts did quite well, right, was that one period of time last weekend, really Saturday, Sunday, Monday, when Bitcoin was declining, and then right after, in the latter half of the week, as Bitcoin rose again, right, alts pretty much faltered. Alts got knocked down 5, 6, 7%, and they've been back and forth, kind of chopping with Bitcoin. Thoughts on how Bitcoin's going to affect the alt market this week? If Bitcoin is able to climb higher out of this, right, above 11.7, above 12, that's really the check mark for me that we continue higher. If that happens, I think the trend continues, that alts probably continue to get hurt. It's not too much me predicting, it's just saying what's been happening lately, and continuing to follow the trend. Not only the trend of Bitcoin trending higher, but also the trend of alts being outpaced and alts trending lower. I've said it also a million times. I just don't think that picking bottoms, the upside there is maybe 5 or 10% on the first trade, but the downside is every single time you do it, right? It's a way higher probability that you're going to be down 5 or 6% every single day. So I've avoided still trying to pick bottoms on alts. It's just not kind of the game I play. Much rather wait to see if alts can actually continue for a day or two. Maybe today is the start of that rise for a lot of alts. I'm going to break that down next. But right now, I'm still not convinced on alts. I think what we're seeing right now is a good sign. Still not convinced. What would be a lot more bullish for alts, right? This would obviously be good for Bitcoin. If we can get above my 12K mark, above the most recent high, right, would be a really nice check mark for Bitcoin, show that buyers are still here, show that demand is still here, and show that we can knock out the most recent lower high. That'd be a good sign, but it would probably hurt alts. I think the best sign for a lot of alts would be if Bitcoin does just continue to chop, right? I'm not sure a violent sell-off would be, I'm sure that'd be okay for alts. I'm not sure that'd be the best. If Bitcoin just continues to kind of chop around what we've been doing really since Thursday, Friday, and what I mean by that is not really finding a direction or trending in a direction for a long time. Let's say it just establishes this range now, and price just continues to chop back and forth. Maybe we have a breakout, maybe we chop around. Anything if it's just a couple $100 up and a couple $100 down, and a range is established with no true trend for Bitcoin, right? No explosive move of 5, 6%, 10%. Right? This kind of stuff for Bitcoin just kills alts, no matter how good the alt is. Yes, there will be one outlier. Yes, there will be, one link in the market which moves 5 or 10% with Bitcoin, but the vast majority of alts are still getting hurt when Bitcoin moves up. So, while I would like to see Bitcoin move above 11.7, really above 12K is the check mark for me to think that we move a lot higher. And if we get above 12K later today or tomorrow, I think we'll probably be talking about attacking new 2019 highs, right? But that's kind of the condition I need to see first. If that isn't met, that's kind of what would give me a lot more confidence in alts. I'm going to look at the alts individually because I think they're exciting, but first I'm going to look at ETH/USD. Right? So we have a slight Bitcoin breakout. If you're a very short-term trader or, a very active trader, I can see how this could make sense for an entry. Like I said, having my stop kind of as long as this most recent low holds, wanting to run it up to at least kind of that 12K. Above 12K would give kind of the higher time frame swing traders, I think, a lot more confidence that we actually move higher. That's what I'm looking for. But I could see how that look could make sense. ETH, I think, is maybe a little bit more interesting. As we look at ETH, pretty similar run, right, since April 1st of when Bitcoin dollar value broke out. Now, ETH has lagged Bitcoin for the most part, just because the ETH Bitcoin pair has been doing poorly, right, versus Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's been outperforming. But as you look at ETH, I think this chart might be slightly cleaner than the Bitcoin dollar chart. And I'll explain what I mean. This resistance that held for quite some time, back here around 280. I'm going to get this out of here. This resistance, let's focus on going into the last week of June, right? Going into when Bitcoin topped out at 13 or 14K. So this is where it broke out from. This was resistance. This area flipping now to support, right? And today's kind of the first day where we're seeing a really explosive move from ETH. A nice 6-7% pop, outpacing Bitcoin's pop. So as I look at ETH, right, now that it's above this 302, 305 was kind of really the mark for me. I do think this chart is just slightly cleaner. The two resistances, and all I mean by that, I just think it's an easier setup to look at. I think it's a little bit more well-defined. I think it's kind of following the levels a little bit clearer than Bitcoin is as well. So this is also going to be a good gauge of how well Bitcoin USD can do. I know that Bitcoin drives most of the dollar values. I don't want to confuse anyone, but sometimes they can move together. As I'm looking at ETH USD, right, if it does continue to move up, the first resistance that I think makes a lot of sense is 340. 400 would kind of be that next level, as long as there's two different ways to play it if I am long or if you are long, right? As long as kind of this 301 is holding, right? Wanting to see that hold, or just a stop below kind of the most recent breakout. So that'd be giving it, right now as it's at 308, giving it that 7% or 8%, $20, looking for at least kind of another 10%. But really, if Bitcoin's ready to break out from this consolidation, and ETH is as well, I still think that 400's on the table. You have to remember how laggy ETH has been. And just because ETH USD is breaking out, it doesn't all of a sudden mean that ETH Bitcoin is going to start outpacing. I do still think that even if ETH, or even if Bitcoin, if Bitcoin breaks out right now, I imagine Bitcoin continues to still dominate. but I think the ETH USD chart is also giving a pretty attractive look, right? So kind of two different ways to play it. I don't like Bitcoin yet. I'll like Bitcoin a lot more if it's above 11.7 or if it's above 12K. It would just kind of give my higher time frame setup a lot more confidence, right? So I'm either for Bitcoin, just to quickly review the dollar plays I'm looking at, above this most recent lower high. That would give me a ton of confidence, right, up here, because it would take out this structure of having a lower high, right? If we could actually push above here, it shows demand is still here. And if we get above 12K, I think it's pretty good likelihood. I have good conviction that we would actually also make the move to 12.4 and probably take that out. Right, so I like waiting, me personally. I know some people are probably already long on this, and that's fine as well. Some people are already shorting on this too. Right now, I'm still calling this chop. Above this most recent swing high, I like it a lot. So the setup still isn't as clear for me. For ETH, I think it is a little bit more clear, and it's just because it's respecting this previous high time frame resistance turning into support. I really like this level. It also gives me a really clear indication of, as long as that area is holding, or however tight you want to play it, whether it's below 300, I do kind of like that, either that short 10% swing or looking for the much larger 30% swing, willing to risk that kind of 6 or 7%. Right? If I was playing a dollar pair right now, I do like the ETH look a little bit more. And it's just because, you know, maybe ETH and EOS and all these other coins are ready to break out. So I'm going to break down kind of the alts now, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Nice little weekend review before we head into the week. This week could definitely be exciting. So alts have been giving this same story. I know a lot of fake outs, also a lot of chop for people that have been kind of waiting for that time to move into alts. And I think what's been going on for the past 6 or 7 days could not illustrate the point that I've tried to make for nearly 3 weeks straight more clear, and that a lot of people have been focused on buying alt bottoms. Right? And probably for the past 6 or 7 or 10 days or 15 days, whatever it might be, people have said, you know, you're an idiot if you're not scaling into alts right now, or, you know, this is the bottom for alts, or the next day, you know, alts are headed to new lows, or this is the bottom for alts, alts are headed to new lows. If you look at ETH, which is representative of nearly every other alt in the market, I know some charts look different, most charts will look the same. ETH has really kind of been dancing along this local low, or this bottom around 0.025, since kind of, you know, for the past at least 7 to 10 or 12 days. Right? It's also the low that formed the 13th or 14th. With ETH breaking up, looking at kind of a smaller time frame, this once again does make things, I would say it brings some hope kind of to the alt market. I don't think that hope always translates into I need to take a trade on this, but I think this does add some hope in the sense that this isn't kind of an isolated pump. I know it's only 2%, but this isn't an isolated move of just ETH. If you look at the EOS charts, if you look at nearly every other chart, they're all kind of showing a very similar structure in that the lows were held now for the past 10 or 15 days, right? Pretty much an equal low here. And now this little 4-hour candle, or what's happening Sunday afternoon going into the trading day Monday, is it does look like a lot of the major alts are attempting to get a slight push up. ADA not reacting yet. Litecoin, it looks like got a small reaction, but not too much yet. It looks like it's already turning over. So it's a positive sign. You know, the Bitcoin breakout, the alt breakout, both have me excited. I still think as I come back to this and as I look at the Bitcoin chart and I already see ADA and Litecoin turning over, as much as I know most people want me to sit here and say, you know, ETH is ready to break out, Litecoin's ready to break out, alts are at their bottom, it's alt season. I still think that the rational choice, which has been the correct choice, not just what I think is right, but has provably been correct, is that Bitcoin is going to continue to outpace as it moves up. And we're seeing it pump right now. Look at how ADA and Litecoin and all these majors, which did get a little volume pop now on Saturday, Sunday. I want to see how EOS and ETH react live. Right? Already starting to have kind of a wick and trend lower. Same with ETH. I imagine this gets knocked back down if Bitcoin picks up strength. So to kind of wrap this up, as I now scan the entire thing, you guys saw me do it live. If Bitcoin does continue to move higher, and let's say it takes out 11.7, right? This would be my first check mark, but really above 12K, right? If this breakout, right, that's happening right now is the real deal, we get above 11.7, we get above 12K, which would make me want to swing long again. Right now, I'm kind of always long Bitcoin, but taking, I mean, a new buy trade on Bitcoin. If we get above 12K, that's a big sign. What I'm seeing, though, I mean, this is only a 3% move on Bitcoin, or another $100 since I've been talking. And that slight momentum pop we had for ETH, we had for EOS, right? Maybe it does continue, but for the most part, it really kind of tells me that Bitcoin is still in control and would probably still outpace all the alts if it does start moving higher. So as much as I want to say it's alt season, as much as I want to say it's an alt window, guys, I have to kind of stick with the view of what's working. And I'm very happy to come on tomorrow and say, look, I was wrong. I'm ready to swing alts. But for 2 or 3 weeks, I've saved a ton of money. I imagine I've saved you a ton of money if you haven't been playing alts, because they just aren't doing well versus Bitcoin. And really the only time that I want to be in alts is when they're all doing well versus Bitcoin. All right, so trades going into Sunday night and into Monday morning. Right, I think the first thing that you need to be paying attention to or thinking about is how's Bitcoin doing, right? That's probably the first chart, the only chart I'm staring at right now. Above 11.7 would be a very nice sign of strength. I think for early triggers, you could be long now or long above 11.7. Above 12K is really kind of the check mark for me. It gives me a lot more confidence that we're taking out the most recent lower high, probably ready to move higher. Right? It's kind of a slower moving approach, but I like that approach. Slower moving has still caught a ton of big moves here. Slower moving, safer approach, I should say. And then as I look at ETH and as I look at, Litecoin, all these other major alts, I do think it's exciting. I think the ETH USD break higher is exciting, right? I think that not only the Bitcoin chart, but also the ETH breakout, both these charts are giving possibly very nice new kind of long trades. But I'm not sold yet on the idea that alts are ready to outpace Bitcoin just based on the fact Bitcoin barely had a 2 or 3% move. And in this last 1 hour candle, right, it had like another $50 move. And you guys saw that happen live. EOS, ETH, Litecoin, all these other coins popping. It's exciting. And maybe the majors do start to outpace. Maybe Binance alts do start to outpace. But I want to see that happen for like 24, 48 hours, not just on 1 4-hour candle. I mean, for the past 3 weeks, you've had a pop for half a day on alts, and then they fade 5 or 6%. Right? And psychologically, I think is probably the biggest thing, right? If you move into alts every single day saying, this is the bottom, because someone said it on Twitter and one chart looks good, and the next day you sell at a 2% loss, every single time that really starts to weigh on you. And then maybe next time you think it's alt season, you go harder. And then you take a 6% loss, and you say, when it actually comes, you won't even be able to pull the trigger, or you won't have as much Bitcoin to move on it because you've been faked out so many times. So I really think that kind of waiting the upside of capturing the exact bottom, if it is right now, maybe you get an extra 10 or 15% on your first trade, which would be sweet, right? But if it is the bottom, once again, for alts, yes, let's say you wait, maybe you miss that first 5 or 15%, but if it's the bottom, they should probably trend higher for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. And then, there'll be plenty of 10 or 15 or 20% swings because all alts will be moving up. So I'm not too worried about catching the bottom on alts. I think it's going to be an exciting thing you're going to see posted a lot on Sunday today and Monday. If it's the case tomorrow, then we spend a whole week looking at alts. But I feel like I've said that now for 15 days straight of when it's proven, I'm happy to spend a ton of time on alts. Right now, it just hasn't been proven. And for that reason, it's still going to be primarily a Bitcoin focus. Maybe ETH starts to outpace, ready to be proven wrong. But until then, it's going to be primarily a Bitcoin focus. Right? If Bitcoin doesn't continue to move higher and can't get above this 11.7, and this is a fake out, then tomorrow, I imagine there's going to be a huge focus on ETH and EOS and ADA and some Binance alts that look ready to move. Right? But until that happens, it's a Bitcoin market. Hopefully this Bitcoin breakout does translate into some positive moves. Even if it doesn't, right? Price hasn't consolidated like this for 48 hours in nearly a month or two. So I imagine volatility will come back. If it comes back to the upside, that'd be sweet because it's going to mean a fun week of Bitcoin trades. But even if it doesn't and it kind of fades, I think we're already starting to see some real pent-up energy and some pent-up pressure in a lot of these alts. If Bitcoin does fade the breakout, right? These reversals on these major alts are going to be really fun to trade. And I don't care if I miss out on the first 2%. I don't care if I miss out on the first 8% or the first 10%. Right? If all alts do reverse here, right, if this is the bottom, if this is a W bottom or an A&E or however you want to think about it, right, if this is the bottom for alts, generally they tend to trend higher for a good chunk of time. You can think of kind of that as really one of the last alt windows. It's back in December or January of this year. Right? So it'd be exciting if Bitcoin kind of fades here. and it gives alt a chance. But right now, I'm just not convinced. I think you're going to see a lot of people excited about maybe them getting a pop. And sure, I'll be excited too. But I'm not sold yet. The Bitcoin breakout is what I'm watching. Above 11.7 would be maybe an interesting check mark. Above 12K is really where things get exciting. Until then, as I'm going into Sunday, I stayed away from the charts this weekend. I stayed away from the trading, and it's because people have just been getting chopped up. And I still think they can get chopped up right here. So I'm still no new trade for me. If I had a position, it'd be long Bitcoin. But we could break down as well. So just not high conviction on the Bitcoin play. Ethereum USD, I think, makes some sense. Watching very, very, very closely for if EOS and ETH are bottomed out tomorrow. These will probably be the first two swings I like. Also still like Tezos, and I'm still in Tezos. So that's what I'm watching, guys. I think Bitcoin will give an opportunity this week. We had some very nice fortune last week with the Bitcoin swings. I want to keep that alive. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the Coinist Daily. Quick 15, 20-minute streams. Past two streams, like I said, it's been mostly market commentary and coverage. No new trade ideas, and that's just how it is sometimes. Not going to force a setup. Other than that, weekend streams, I plan to do them as much as possible, but sometimes Saturday and Sunday, I just have to take some time off, hopefully to improve the newsletter, make sure I'm covering everything, and also get away from my screen for 12 hours. But other than that, guys, we'll be back. Normal schedule. See you guys tomorrow, 4:30 or 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully everyone had a great weekend, and let's have a good week. All right? Peace, guys.